All right. Welcome, everybody, to our fourth podcast. Is it number 4?
Number 4.
All
You
right.
can count high.
Starting off, eh? Starting
Sorry,
off.
sorry.
So today we have a special guest, Bernard Piprah, with BKP Counseling.
Yes, thank you.
I was going to say BK like the Burger King, but that's
Right.
that would be insulting. So we're gonna talk today just about kind of holiday season. There's some added stress, obviously, with families, work, and stuff like that. And thanks for coming on,
Appreciate it.
Diana.
All right. Well, I'm really excited that Bernard is here today. I lovingly know him as Kwame.
Mm-hmm.
He is my cousin.
Mm.
Can you see? Can you tell?
Yes.
It's the
Yeah.
glow.
Okay. But I've watched Kwame, Bernard, grow over the years from being a little guy to the young man that he has become, and I am very proud of him and what he's doing. So he has a beautiful family. My 2 cute little cousins, they're gorgeous, that him and his beautiful wife Monica has produced. But over the years, just watching him grow as a person and watching him grow in the field that he's in. He actually did a workshop for some ladies for me a couple months ago, and I was so impressed that I thought we should bring him on here. But I'm going to let Kwame tell you more about his background in terms of how he's become a psychotherapist with his own practice. So
Thanks for being here, Bernard.
Thank you.
Take
Thank
it
you.
over.
I appreciate that intro, everybody. Thank you. So, yeah, I'm a registered clinical counselor, registered with the BC Association of Clinical Counselors. So, a little side note, anybody in BC can be called a therapist or a counselor, which is a little scary. So, you got to make sure that the person you're working with has some sort of a regulatory body they're connected with. And so I'm one of those individuals. People call me an RCC or registered clinical counselor. And that just allows me to do assessments and provide treatment, not medication. Those are psychologists. But I run a private practice here in Langley called BKP Counseling that I've been running since 2020. Opened up during the pandemic, like March 2020. I was
Perfect timing.
this is the best time for me to do this. And it was like crickets for like 2 months.
Yeah.
We were in lockdown, but thankfully things have really flourished. And I think it's a combination of factors. I think there's been a huge push to normalize conversations around mental health, which has been great. People who have formerly been resistant towards mental health, mostly men, people of color, are now more encouraged, more supported to go and try therapy out, which has been really great. And I've been able to work with clients from coast to coast. So I'm particularly very grateful to be here to talk about the holidays and the work that all of you guys do.
Nice, thank you. Wainers, do you have some questions?
Are we going with questions, or
We're
is there
running-
anything, or have anything that you want to address right now?
go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, during the holiday season, especially this year in particular with the high interest rates, we're noticing a lot of buyers not ready to jump on properties as much as they once were, because usually fall is a typically busy season, but not so much this year. And then, moreover, a lot of sellers are having trouble selling their properties this year, and it's putting a lot of undue stress on these homeowners, especially with these high interest rates right now. So, any tips or advice that you have for these buyers and sellers that are stressing out over property or stressing out over their financial situations this year?
I think first and foremost, it's a very regular experience for people to feel higher stress, higher anxiety, or symptoms of depression during this season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just the marketing that we are overwhelmed with put so much expectations on how you show love, right, and what you're supposed to do and be super happy and joyful all the time.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot of pressure for some of us who are struggling with other things
Yeah.
outside of just being able to show up to work and tend to our family needs. Then you add to the mix, you're selling, and inflation has increased everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a pretty challenging time for a lot of people, and I think it's important to take perspective. I think some people maybe go into the selling experience without having the perspective that like this is happening everywhere.
Yeah.
It's not really happening
Yeah.
just to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And they might not have an agent who can help them have realistic expectations. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, we're almost. I feel like we're counselors a lot of the time, not registered.
Mm.
But but there's a lot of like you see the aspects of people's lives when they're making their biggest decisions and at their most stressful points.
Yeah.
So I feel like a lot of times we kind of have to be there to hear what's going on outside of just the transaction, and because we've all been through it too so many times, to try to be there to understand it's stressful, and we'll kind of get you through it. But yeah, it's a tough time.
One of the things that I would think would be important to people who are listening is, what are some of the myths in regards to mental health? I
Mhm.
think a
Yeah,
lot
that's
of
a
people
good
have
one.
myths.
Yeah.
What are some of the myths? And so with that, what should people be aware of?
I think, I mean, I remember being on the playground and hearing kids call each other mental, right?
Yes.
And that meant out of control, or that meant you're crazy. And I think that is still such a interesting part of society right now, where we're coming around more to understanding that mental health is just health. We all have mental health,
Right.
right? It's just a spectrum of experiences, right? So we feel joyful at times, we feel resentful at times, we feel sad at times, and those are just normal experiences along this spectrum. And I think that understanding that we all go through a range of experiences and do things based on psychological or physical or social circumstances that either improve or diminish our mental health.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going through the selling process, and there's ways that you can strengthen your mental health so that you and your family go through the experience in a productive way. And then you also know, I'm sure all of you have been exposed to folks who have things going on.
Yeah.
Maybe it's unprocessed resentments in the relationship. Maybe it's the idea of projection, right? So we're going to buy this townhouse, and this is going to make things better.
Yeah.
Right? And we got to be real about those things. We have to get perspective on those other factors.
It's so funny. We have that situation recently. So it's out there, and I think sometimes people do think that if they buy this house or they get this dog or they do this vacation,
Have
and
this extra kid.
this extra kid, that that stuff will change in the relationship, but they haven't fixed like the core issues. But that we have that situation come up quite a few times. So
Yeah. And you're placed in the middle, but you're not counselors
Yeah.
to feel like, or what do I do now? What do I do now? Do we just sit
But
there?
Bernard,
Do you leave?
you brushed on these coping mechanisms that you can do as let's say a seller right now who's stressed over the season. My place hasn't sold; it's been listed for 3 months. Anything specific that you can kind of point out, or anything just introductory that you can suggest that they can help them through, especially this season right now when I guess the purse strings are a little tighter, considering there's Christmas gifts to buy, a lot of extra expenditures in the holiday season. So I mean, financial stress is obviously something completely different, but just dealing with it, how would you suggest?
I think that folks need to really recognize what's in and out of your control.
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
And I think that can be very empowering
Yeah.
when you start to, really understand you have to let go of
Right.
certain things that you want control over. You're fighting reality
Right.
in those circumstances. I think that's incredibly helpful. I think that folks can also be very mindful and apply what mindfulness can be in their situation when they're buying a home. So one of those things is, if you are checking a home listing 12 times a day, you might want to take a step back.
Right.
You might want to get some perspective from people around you to help you be able to go about it in a healthier way, because that can increase rumination and impact your sleep hygiene, which the holidays already diminishes, right? Folks eat worse, sleep less, take on more stress during the holidays. So I think being prepared going into the holiday season, if you're selling, is crucial. And I work with a lot of clients who, real estate comes up, the housing situation comes up, the holidays come up. So
And the anxiety kicks in, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And sometimes Wayne's name comes up for stress, or no? Is that you can't say? Separate. Yeah, so that's good. I mean, I guess because Christmas, is coming up so quickly, it's good to have like you say, be able to let stuff go. I think that's important, and how to kind of deal with that or ways to do that is important.
What are things that maybe people should be paying attention to know if their mental health is being affected? Because like you said in the beginning, a lot of us we try to pretend, or because like you say, mental health, oh my goodness, I'm crazy. But the reality is, what are things people should really be aware of to know that they're probably heading for some sort of a crisis?
I think it's important to know that mental health or mental illness is indiscriminate. Doesn't matter about your social status. Doesn't matter about your education experience, your race, your gender. Anybody is susceptible to mental health, and I've been seeing stats from last year, like over 50% of individuals would say around December their anxiety or depression symptoms spike. So it could be so high that at least one of us in this room is going through some experience of mental health, and if we don't address it over a prolonged experience, that's when we get into mental illness, right? And it doesn't mean that if you have a mental illness that this is something that you can't treat. It's treatable. You can recover. There's a lot of successful people with mental illness that are managing themselves, but they have to be willing to accept support, right? And challenge the pride and the ego around like being strong and being, everyone relying on me, like, especially in the month of December. I tell a lot of folks, like, hey, like, step back. Like, if you have to go to a stressful holiday party, like, take breaks, or like decide, like, maybe I shouldn't be going this year. Like, give yourself permission. Like, what are you giving yourself permission, or what are you giving yourself space for? Right. That applies to mental health. It also applies to pushing in your home, right? Because you have these expectations, and sometimes you need to realize, like, I need to give myself space for other options, and hopefully you have some support, and you have agents who can help you with like a more realistic, reality-based kind of perspective.
So some symptoms might be
decreases in your sleep.
Check. No,
right?
I know I'm going next.
Your typical diet and intake, like being aware of like how that's going. Routines. How much are your routines off when challenged? And then like checking in with like your supports, or you find yourself isolating more, because like loneliness is like one of the top experiences during the holidays. A lot of folks don't have the family presently here, or they have distance with family, or there's challenging family dynamics in every family. So I think it's recognizing those shifts, and kind of being attentive to like other people in your life who are like mentioning things or concerns. Like, I think it's important because we all have blind spots.
I think that's one of the challenges. Like, people, you hear all the time, people will do something where their mental health was challenged and they've hurt themselves or something, and people go, oh my goodness, I never knew that. I didn't see any symptoms. I didn't, how could that person have done that? They didn't show that. So I think that's a challenge.
And speaking from firsthand experience, I mean, I've seen, obviously, someone close to me had these, I guess, mental conditions manifest them physically, and then when that happens, it just takes over your life, right? So, people often underestimate the power of your brain and the mental illness that comes with it sometimes, and then something happens to you physically before you actually understand that it's a mental situation that you have to deal with first, right? So
absolutely,
the other thing I was gonna so you kind of touched on like holiday and like the parties and stuff. I think that's hard, right? Because I know like my wife has a large family, and I find it difficult to go to these parties with like 30 people and put on my smiley face, because for me now it's my dad's 10-year death anniversary on New Year's, so I find like it's hard to kind of get in the holiday spirit sometimes, and I feel like I'm kind of putting on that face sometimes. Like, I'd rather just stay home and watch A Christmas Vacation or whatever, So I think that's, for a lot of people, that's the case, right? That you kind of have to put it on for your family and stuff during that time. And then like the social media aspect, I know we see it all the time. Like I don't say it's fake, right? But there's a lot of stuff that, well, I guess it is fake. You see a lot of realtors like, I got my Lambo and scoot, and like, I'm throwing money up in the air, and all the vacations and stuff, and nobody really posts stuff, that's negative.
Right.
No one's like, here's me screaming at my kids, or here's me having a breakdown. It's always I'm vacationing and this and that. So I think it's hard for people to kind of sometimes if you compare to that or stay in your own lane, like I'm thankful for all the stuff that I have, and but that I think can be tough for people as well. So,
So grief.
Yeah, grief.
You hit on grief.
Yeah.
So this time of the year can be a really difficult time in people grieving.
Yeah, I think so.
People, their loved ones they've lost, and how do you cope? What are some coping mechanisms that you can put in place?
I work on grief like a lot.
Yeah, I'm sure
it's definitely a big topic that comes up, and the first thing I'm honest with folks about is like, I'm not going to talk you out of your grief.
Right.
Right? But I think acknowledging like you're not okay isn't a sign of weakness, right? Like we go through these experiences, your mental health is in not so great place right now. There's things that you can do to get yourself back to a manageable place. And also the process of grief is like any other process, right? It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you have to give it its time. Anything we try to force, we're likely going to prolong, like staying within it, right? So I like to acknowledge like that, some of us are grieving in this space and that some of us are open to also have conversations and support and give you that just active ear to just hear how you're doing without the expectation that I'm going to fix it. And I think that's all you can do. And I've seen my cousin do this, at Easter, Christmas is kind of, when we're about to eat, kind of giving those acknowledgments out there. And that's important. Like there's people that aren't here. I like traditions that kind of acknowledge that, right? Like some like Eastern European ones will set the chair at the table for someone who's not there.
Oh yeah, that's
what
good.
I mean? And I kind of like that acknowledgement there. And so I just think validation is incredible when it comes to what's going on. And it's not like they're going to make things necessarily worse for you. Right. You're already thinking about it.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, that's a good point. And you already said you can't prescribe drugs, right?
No, sorry. Yeah.
I know a guy, right?
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah. I got you.
I got you. Well, I think the other thing, like you kind of touched on it, but for men, I think it is more of like a stigma almost to go out and say like, where do I get help, or to even like ask your friends like, hey, I'm not feeling well. Like, do you know somebody? Because I don't think I've ever really heard it come up like with our group of friends, but I know there's different issues coming up on our group, but nobody kind of says, "Oh, I'm seeing somebody for it" or whatever. So it's interesting that, like, how do you find people approaching you then? Mostly is it word of mouth, or how is that?
There's really cool resources out there. Psychology Today is a pretty popular one online. I also am on different types of directories like Healing in Color on the BC Association of Clinical Counseling website too. So it's quite a bit out there. I try to get myself out there too and do different projects. I was working with a credit union this year doing a mental wellness series throughout the whole year. I got some pretty cool opportunities coming up early next year. So I try to get myself out there. A lot of people like are surprised that I exist. Like, they just don't know. And truly, I went to my first even convention in November. There was like 750 clinical counselors. It was so great to be there. But I think there was maybe 6 men out of like almost like 800 people in the building, right? So I know it's very infrequent to see a man in this space, and I think we don't talk enough about our friends and our buddies about like, hey, I'm going to the gym. I'm getting a pedi, and I'm also going to a therapist appointment next week. Right?
You'd slide it in there. Exactly.
But I think it's important to like normalize. Like the truth is like mental health is health, and if I have diabetes, you know, if I have like other conditions, like it's just the same as like a mental illness.
Yeah. That's so interesting too, because I find now, like, we're getting a little bit older, and yeah, our friend chat will be like, oh, I found out I got diabetes, or I got cholesterol or whatever. But yeah, but mental health never comes
Never.
up,
Yeah.
you know? So it's interesting that, yeah, you're not afraid to say other things that might be going through, but nobody's saying mental health stuff. But you're right, it's the same sort of thing.
So
yeah.
there's a lot of value in sharing, from what
Mhm.
I've found as well. If you use yourself as a precedent and just open those floodgates and kind of just let everybody know what's going on in your life, both
Yeah.
physically and mentally, it kind of starts a conversation
Yeah.
going without kind of pushing people to talk, even if you think that someone has an issue. But if you do, I mean, maybe that's a good way to do it. Because I've had situations where I bring up something that's happening in my life, and then it just snowballs, and then people start spilling their guts about what's happening. All mental stuff, everything, it's easy to share your successes, that's for sure.
Yeah,
I know it's
for
just
sure.
on social
Always.
media. But when it comes down to the shortfalls or the shortcomings or the drawbacks, it's really hard as a person to volunteer that information. But if someone else is putting it out there, then you kind of, you're more eager to share yourself as well, right? Is that something?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to challenge people to be like stigma breakers.
Yeah. Okay.
'Cause
That's a good way to put it.
I'll meet a client who comes from like Hungary, and they're like, you know, my dad never talked about
Right.
his feelings, never told me he loved me. So like, that's just what's preset in me. But I'm like, you have an opportunity to kind of break that in the present. Like, you can decide what's in your control and be different and evolve. And, or, you know, female clients who come from maybe, you know, cultures that, you know, suppress, female autonomy, and, you know, learning to give themselves permission to like change the generational patterns of behavior is a big one that I see, and I try to encourage little steps too, right? Like, you want to really be careful and find ways that work for you to be able to evolve and grow in a healthy way.
Yeah, makes
And in saying that, what percentage of your clients would be male, would you say?
I'd say a good 50%.
Wow,
Okay,
that's
so
good.
that's
Of,
positive.
yeah, oh,
That's quite
absolutely. I
positive.
think there's just more and more recognition that, like, especially when I think we look at some statistics around suicide rates
Mm-hmm.
with men,
Mhm.
and such a common thing is like, I never knew he was feeling that
Yeah.
way,
Yeah.
and that's more prevalent than women, where at least there's more encouragement to talk and share feelings and
Right.
thoughts,
Mhm.
whereas we internalize everything, and that's why it's just like mind blowing to see like the numbers of suicide and how challenging that is for men to experience in this continent.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Well, there's that saying that, I don't know, parents used to always say that too, like, be nice to everybody, because you don't know what they're going
Mhm.
through, right? And I think
Mhm.
that's so true, right? And I think sometimes in like our job too, we take things personally, because we've had situations where just like, wow, that person was like just really difficult to
Mhm.
deal with, and it's
Mhm.
like, but sometimes it's a transaction, and it's not necessarily us.
Yeah.
There's other stuff that's going on. You know,
As you're
behind the scenes.
maturing, I think those things resonate with you.
Yeah.
That, like, when was it? Earlier today when I was driving here.
Was that you?
Some-
You cut me off?
Somebody was doing something crazy, and I just kind of went, okay, they might be going through something that I
Yeah.
don't know of. It's Christmas. It's okay. Go ahead. Do your thing.
Mm.
But yeah, but that comes with maturity,
Yeah, I think
age,
with age, yeah.
âge.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Nice.
If you had 1 minute, just 1 minute to share something about mental health, what would be that? What you've got 1 minute. What are you going to share to the public about mental health?
I think it's just okay to acknowledge that you're not always okay. Like, if you're always happy, I'm actually more concerned
Mm.
about you, because it's just not.
We're good.
It's like, you know, it's like life is really about, you know, ebbs and flows.
Yeah.
And I think if we acknowledge that more and realize that there's things that are really cool, that are interesting, that we can do to take care of ourselves, that allow us to kind of be better husbands, mothers, cousins, coworkers, we should be open to that kind of growth. And I'm seeing a trend in a lot of different workplaces, having more conversations. You know, even just this podcast itself, right? I think that a lot of folks who are trying to buy or sell, need to know that they have a team, some realtors with them that are taking into consideration, I might be selling because I'm going through a divorce.
Right.
I might be selling because I lost a parent, and we're moving on. And if the realtors have empathy for that and the compassion, and also want to help challenge the seller or the buyer to have like realistic expectations, that's an incredible support throughout one of the biggest processes you're going to go through in your life, right? So I think that's important. That's why I think this is a really cool platform that all of you are doing.
Empathy.
Mm-hmm.
Empathy for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, we see it in our business all the time. It's not, for some people, it's just cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching.
Yeah.
It's, I get to write another deal.
Yeah.
I need 10 this month.
Mm-hmm.
But we're dealing with really people's lives and really important areas of their lives. And I think that sometimes it's just good to step back and just be a person. Let them know that you care about what they're doing. And it's not just about signing off on that deal. And may take longer to build your business, but I think that creates lasting relationships.
Absolutely.
Which is really important. Yeah.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, we're in Langley, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And your office is in Langley,
Yeah.
just up the
Yeah.
street.
Yeah,
You live in
nearby.
Langley.
Yes.
Your kids go to school and daycare in Langley.
Yeah.
But you service clients from...
Coast to coast.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Coast to coast. Previously to the pandemic, we were only permitted to work within BC. And then, Zoom and Teams came into the picture, and we had the ability to kind of, branch out province dependent to work with clients. And I was really fortunate to get a lot of people reaching out to me from like Yukon and New Brunswick. And
those are pretty depressing places.
We're booking you an appointment.
Yeah. So it's been really neat in that sense. So I enjoy working in this community, and it's booming out here in Langley. There's so much development, and there's also more demand than there are homes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I'm sure all of you have to kind of check people with, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, Langley's been really busy the last couple of years. Like, so are we in Willoughby Heights right now? I mean, the last couple of years, there's been so many people that have moved out here, like similar situation, because you can get way more than Vancouver and stuff. But I am noticing some of our clients now having to make the commute, back to Vancouver and stuff. So yeah, a lot of people that moved out, they expected to just work from home forever, and now the employers are saying, no, we have this office space downtown. We're spending so much money. You guys got to come in at least a couple times a week. So. Those people, I think you're gonna get some of those calls, because that's a long time in the car.
A lot of road rage there.
A lot of road, probably where. So where you got. That's probably where the road rage kicks in. So those people that are flipping you off, they're in the car for like 3 hours, right? So I think we're lucky with our job that we don't really have to drive in rush hour and stuff, right? And like that's
More
a huge stress. People just an hour and a half in the car every day. So
referrals? Do they need a referral, or can they contact you
Oh,
directly?
people can just find me, Google me, Bernard Piprah, and find me on there. And I'm just grateful for all the clients that I have, and I'm very fortunate too to also be quite busy.
Nice.
So, and I think that's actually a more of a widespread thing as well. I think a lot of practitioners are feeling like the pinch right now, especially. The end of the year, and a lot of folks are coming in with like benefits and trying to use them in a lot of places. So it's like it's a good and bad thing. And even myself, I have to kind of set boundaries, and like certain expectations. So I can't take care of other people if I don't take care of myself.
Right.
Yeah,
That is awesome. Yeah.
that is covered then through benefits then?
Yeah, like a lot of folks have extended health
Okay.
benefits, and a registered clinical counselor is covered, which is great.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yeah.
Awesome. So basically, we can't call you at 10:30 at night.
Oh no, my phone will be off.
He won't
My phone will be
answer.
off.
He won't answer.
Yeah.
But being busy means my Christmas presents are going to be way bigger this year.
Right.
That's right. And maybe wait until you're sober before you call.
That's right.
So-
Yeah, that always helps.
That always helps
yeah,
too,
yeah, it's a good start.
There you go. Good start. Nice. Okay. Do you guys have any
Awesome.
additional comments?
No, just
Yeah.
there's with mental health, there's so much you can talk about, but it's been good. Thank you,
Yeah.
Bernard.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I think that's
coming
a
out
good
and joining
start,
us.
and people know where to
Thanks
where
for
to
all the
reach
tips
you.
and
Yeah.
advice. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Yeah, we'll make sure that we put your link in the bio.
Yes,
Great,
we'll
great.
do that.
Sorry, bio in the link down. So,
Your link in
yeah,
the bio,
yeah.
bio in
Yeah.
the link. Yeah.
Put you on LinkedIn. Yeah.
LinkedIn, yeah.
There you go. All right. Thanks for joining us.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much, and a
Yeah.
very Merry Christmas.
Merry
well, I'm
Christmas,
going to
yeah.
see you for
Um,
Christmas.
Yes, we will. Yeah, yeah. Happy holidays.
all,
Happy
twen-
holidays.
all 27 of us will be hanging out on
that's stress
Christmas
by
Day.
itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, we cut that one. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Get,
Yeah,
leave
thank
one
you.
of your cards so
Yeah.
these guys can attach
Yeah,
the
that's
info.
Excellent.
I hope I've
That was good. Yeah, thank you.
got this one.
One or the other.
Yeah.
Another open.
Yeah, that's good.
Ah,
That was about 30. Good. Do you guys want to say something for team stuff?
maybe you want to do a Merry Christmas thing?
Merry
We
Christmas.
can do a Merry Christmas thing. Thank you, B.
All right,
Thank
that was
you.
great. Well,
Yeah.
Can we do a quick shot with him, maybe?